Good morning, world.
Got a question for you today. Actually, got a few questions for you. Let me ask you, is being successful part of white culture? Is the nuclear family part of white culture? And lastly, is the scientific method and linear thinking, is that solely part of white culture? We'll be discussing that and other things.
Yep, we got sports, we got COVID, we got everything. But first,
I'm Cedric.
and I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And Brian, did you see this chart that you're going to put up behind us here? Did you see this chart that talks about things that really identify what white culture really is? And if you haven't seen it, keep in mind, this is not put up by David Duke, who's a neo-Nazi. First of all, this is a damn shame. It is put up by the Museum of African American History at the Smithsonian. This is what, I'm going to say African Americans, blacks, have defined as being successful, what the nuclear family is. That is all white culture. So what I'm hearing is
My culture.
what I'm hearing is that I'm trying to be white if I'm trying to be successful, if I try and keep my family intact, if I'm involved in linear thinking or scientific thinking.
Go down the list.
This is all white thinking. We got this list here. We want you guys to take a look at this. Brian, you got a chance to and they have it little individual stuff going on here. Okay, let's go over some of these things here they've defined as being part of white culture, and I guess white culture only. Talks about rugged individualism.
Because if you strive for that,
Right.
you're trying to be white.
Yeah, don't be striving for this. That makes you a white person. Rugged individualism. There's 3 bullet points here. Number 1, actually there's 4. The individual is the primary unit. Number 2, self-reliance. Number 3, independence and autonomy are highly valued and rewarded. And number 4, individuals assume to be in control of their environment. Now get what you deserve.
White.
That's so white. Jeez. Should I skip the family structure?
Yeah.
I'll skip that. You guys can look that up on your own.
We're going to skip around because there's so many of these, and I'm going to post these in below. You can see, because they took this down. The Smithsonian took this down because of all the blacklash.
Yes.
No, white lash.
Because of all the backlash. But they did say that, and I guess it was a legit excuse, that they're involved in the process of always educating themselves and being lifelong learners. And thank you for calling us out on this mistake. This wasn't a mistake. This is a damn shame.
And when I read this, and you'll see when you go through this, a lot of this is what's going on with the Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of this seems more like socialist propaganda.
Right.
It's because they said they want to tear down. They don't like individualism. They want collectivism. So the first thing on there, being white, is being individualism.
Right.
So again, I think this is less about race and more about politics again.
Right.
But they're using race in their politics. So go ahead.
And then they go on to talk about if you're involved in putting an emphasis on the scientific method. Now, I don't teach science. I don't know what's going on. But I know most stuff, whether it's science or anything else, you have a hypothesis. You have a theory. You test that theory. And if it doesn't work, you go back to hypothesis again. That's just linear thinking. That's logical thinking.
And why they say that's part of white culture?
That's white culture.
I mean, that's insulting.
Now, here's the thing. Now, I'm going to address the black audience for a second, and anybody else who's not white. If you are involved in objective, rational, linear thinking, you are trying to be white. If you're concerned with cause and effect relationships, like if you do this and this happens, you're being white. Just be willy-nilly and just throw the chips in the air, throw stuff against the wall. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And number 3, quantitative emphasis, which is a fancy way of saying, look at the numbers, look at the stats. Is it measuring up? If you're involved in any of that, you're involved in white culture. Shame on you.
Don't look at stats.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. History.
Yeah, this is okay. So go ahead, read that one.
Okay, there's 3 bullet points on this one. It's based on Northern European immigrants' experience in the United States.
I wonder why that would be, Cedric. Who landed at Plymouth Rock? Weren't those Europeans?
Number 2, a heavy focus on the British Empire. And number 3, the primacy of Western, or Greek and Roman, and Judeo-Christian tradition.
Well, you got to admit, those things are pretty white. Maybe that one would fit in a whiteness thing.
I disagree. I disagree. This one got me a little triggered. If you have a Protestant work ethic, a Protestant Protestant work ethic means that you're trying to be part of white culture. And you should stay away from these three things. Stay away from them. Number one, hard work is the key to success.
No.
Number two, work before play. And number three, if you didn't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough. If you believe any of those premises, you are involved in white culture.
Again, it's insulting because that has nothing to do with a black-white. Any successful black person out there who would look at this was going to be pissed off.
Right? It's insulting.
Read all those.
Okay, one more here. It talks about, again, the column is status, power, and authority. And there's 4 bullet points. Number 1, wealth equals worth. Now, I'd say that with a caveat. It's because you're wealthy doesn't mean that you have worth or value. We all have worth or value depending on...
But again, that's not a black-white thing.
That's
Again,
not a black,
they're
white
going
thing.
back to the socialism, capitalism thing. They're selling it as black-white.
Right.
And it's just, that's what's scary. They're selling this stuff as race.
Right. Second one, your job is who you are. Now, no, you should never identify yourself with a job. Most of you probably never knew that Brian was a chiropractor or that I was a teacher. We just don't bring it up because it's not who I am. It's what we do along in conjunction with who we are. Number 3, this one is a doozy. If you do this, you are really part of white culture.
Part of the problem.
If you respect authority.
And you can see that anybody who's watching the news right now, what are they pushing? They're pushing that it's okay not to respect authority. It's...
Okay,
Go ahead, say it. This is where your tagline comes in.
It's a damn shame. This is funny because I've teased a lot of my friends about it, a couple of my white friends about it. They talk about time. You're involved in white culture if you follow rigid time schedules. There's a term out there. I'll give you time to think about it. Does anybody know what CP time is? I'll tell you. It is colored people time. And we follow, and what colored people time means is we'll get there when we get there. Something starts at 3, we'll get there 4:35, 6 o'clock. But if you follow rigid time schedules, that's part of being white culture.
Guess what? That's part of being successful.
That's part of being successful. Be on time.
Yeah.
And time is viewed as a commodity. Is it? It is. It is a commodity. It's something that we spend every single day. We all have 24 hours in a day, and how you spend that time will determine.
Look at this justice right there.
Justice. Okay. Let's go into justice. 3 bullet points. Justice is, number 1, based on English common law. It is. It is. I don't know why this is such a this is a damn shame. I can't speak. Okay, number 2. Protect property and entitlement. If you protect if you protect the things that you've worked for and you strive for, which you provide for your nuclear family, but if you do that, you're white. But if you do that, it's white culture. And number 3, intent counts. If you do all that, it's part of white culture.
When we went over that on another episode where intent doesn't matter. It's just silly.
I want to touch on communication. Oh my goodness.
All right, go
Okay,
ahead.
this last one here. Communication. And this, because I've been reading stuff on this as well, the quote-unquote King's English rules, as it should. Because there are some places out there that are trying to, and I'm not saying this to make fun or to speak lightly of it, that's trying to make Ebonics a language. That's just being lazy. Yes, you need to enunciate. You need to pronounce your words better. And the King's English should be part of how you speak.
Well, and the way they phrase that is to kind of give it a racial connotation anyways. It's just a term, the King's English. Obviously, we don't have the king here. It's just English, proper English. If they wanted to be honest, they would have just said proper English.
Proper English.
Okay.
The next thing you want to do if you want to avoid being part of white culture in the area of communication. Now, this is almost embarrassing. It's embarrassing that they wrote this down and no one looked it over and came back with a QC process. So, we might want to leave this out. But here's what is part of white culture and communication: avoiding conflict and intimacy. Because here's the thing, well, you're gonna have conflict. That's healthy communication. Avoiding intimacy. How do you build a family? Is
that really on there?
Avoid conflict and intimacy in your communication, because that's being part of white culture. Don't show emotion. Don't show emotion. Just be very monotone.
So that's pretty stereotypical. So they think that white people are just emotionless?
I see you get pretty triggered sometimes.
I mean, come on. Oh, my goodness.
Don't discuss your personal life.
That's insulting to both of us now.
It is. I'm trying to be like Brian if I discuss my personal life. That's called relating. It's called relating. We all go through struggles, we all go through things, and we learn from each other by talking to each other about our personal struggles and triumphs and learning from each other.
They act like we're two different species.
Right?
We're both freaking human.
Right. And last but not least, to avoid white culture, don't be polite. If you're being polite,
That's not in there.
just right there is the last bullet point. Being polite is part of white culture.
How did this make it past the editors?
Right?
That is sad that it was even posted at one point.
Right? You would see this like on some satire sitcom as a joke.
Yeah, or like you said at the beginning, something like some white supremacist would put out
Right.
by saying, "Hey, whiteys, this is what separates us."
I have a tank top. You guys go to our store. I have a tank top that says Cedric and Brian. It's a damn shame. This is a damn shame.
Yeah, check out our store. So we have tank tops, we have masks, since this COVID is going to be with us for a while, and there's one that says it's a damn shame, and the other one says, "Good morning, world."
Yeah, that's your tagline there. Oh my goodness, this is funny. We had to share this.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen this. They've taken it down, so you can't find it unless you can find it on some old Twitter account. So last time we talked about, and I'm going to use my notes here a little bit. We want to know how dangerous it really is out there because we want the kids to go back to school.
Right.
So I'm going to bring this up right here. This is an article about how dangerous it really is for kids on COVID-19. And I know, as a parent, you don't want to put your kids in any harm's way at all. But again, if I didn't want my kids to ever get hurt, you'd never let them leave the house. And that's one thing being a parent. You're like, okay, I have to let my kids go out. They have to go in the big bad world. Every time they get in a car, they could get in an accident. We know people whose kids were, I know people whose kids were, had brain damage, everything from getting in accidents to people that we know in our district that lost their kids. It's horrible. But you can't just lock your kids up in the house.
Right.
It's the same thing with this COVID-19. When you look at the numbers, and we're going to go down this article right here. All right, so here's the article right here. It's by, I forget his first name, Daniel Horowitz. So, a new study. Get out of there. Millennials think their risk from COVID-19 is exponentially more than the actual truth threat. So, if we go through this, and I'm going to scroll down here. And if you go to the CDC, these are numbers from the CDC. So this is where most of us are getting our numbers about this whole pandemic. So for younger people, it says, what is the infection fatality rate, the IFR, infection fatality rate for younger? So that's if you get it, are you going to die from it? The CDC estimates 0.05. So if you're a kid and you get it, it's 0.05%. Okay? For everyone of that age, so that's not just kids. That's from age 0 to 49.
Right.
So that's up to almost our age. It's 0.05, not 0.5.
Right.
Not 0.1 like the flu.
Right.
0.05. That's if you get it.
Right.
Okay? And then the other estimates based on Spain serology tests broke down by age suggests that it's even a lower IFR for ages 18 to 49. So now, that's if you get it. They said, though, if you're under 65 and your chances of dying from this, so just being out in public, your chances of getting and dying, so once you get it, yeah, it's 0.05. But your chances of actually getting it and dying is, okay, there's 3 zeros here, 0.0006. Okay, so that's 1 in 1,666 people. So that's roughly the equivalent of dying from a motor vehicle accident. So again, if you're not letting your kids out because you're afraid they're going to get in a car accident, then okay, keep your kids home from COVID. But if you're a parent and you said, okay, my kids are going to go out and live their lives, that you're putting them in the same risk of dying for either one. So these are, and you guys, I know people yell at this stuff and nobody likes to hear stats.
Right.
We have to base our decisions of what we do on numbers. So if they're irrational. Now, when they actually ask kids, millennials, what they thought it was going to be, they thought that it was, it's on here. They asked a group of kids, and they thought they had a 2% chance. So not 0.05. They thought if they get it, they have a 2% chance of dying.
Wow.
So when you ask the kids, they basically think they have a 2 out of 100 chance of dying.
Right.
That's not the case.
Not the case.
So anyways, I thought I'd bring that up because, and it's even, I mean, this is a disease that for older people, it is deadly. It's much more deadly than the flu for older people and for people with underlying conditions.
Right.
But for kids, we were talking about school, it's much less than the flu. And it's about the same as if you're worried about them getting in an auto accident.
Right.
And of course, as parents,
Right.
you're always worried, but you can't just live in fear.
No.
You got to let them live, and you got to let them go to school. You got to let them interact with people. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences. I already told you the numbers for suicides right now. The number of suicides is almost as high as the number of deaths from COVID.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So anyways, I'm going to put this article on there so you can read. It's an interesting article. There's more numbers on here, but I just wanted to point out that for anybody under 49, so it's not just kids. So from 0 to 49 is 0.05 if you already have that.
Right.
So
Right.
anyways, I wanted to bring that up. Go on the Worldometer, go into coronavirus, look at some of the other countries. Countries like, remember, we were scared to death because of Italy. The deaths per day in Italy are almost non-existent. So,
Right.
So anyway, all right. So we won't beat that anything. Now I have a fun one because Cedric's the basketball guy. So Charles Barkley.
Oh,
I've always liked Charles Barkley.
I love Charles Barkley.
Yeah. So he came out. So we're gonna play this clip, and Cedric, you're gonna let me know what you think about it. Have you watched the clip?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen, Deshaun Jackson, Steven Jackson, Nick Cannon, Ice Cube. Man, what the hell are y'all doing? Like, y'all want racial equality. We all do. I don't understand how insulting another group helps our cause. And the only person called y'all on it was Kareem. We can't allow black people to be prejudiced also, especially if we're asking for white folks to respect us, give us economic opportunity, and things like that. I'm so disappointed in these men, but I don't understand how you beat hatred with more hatred. That stuff should never come up in your vocabulary, and it should never come up in your heart. I don't understand it. I'm never going to accept it. And I'm asking you guys, I'm begging you guys, man. You guys are famous. You got a platform. We got to do better, man. I want allies. I don't want to alienate anybody. And to take shots at the Jewish race, the white race, I just don't like it because it's not right. And I had to call them on it because it's really been on my heart.
I think Charles Barkley is getting to the point now where we talked in our last video about everybody becoming woke. I think this woke thing is starting to wear on people because we're overdoing it now. And I think a lot of people are kind of putting their hands up in the air saying, okay, you know what? Enough. You're just doing too much now. And Charles Barkley being an elder statesman, and then, as Brian and I talked about before, in the black culture, we've kind of made being disrespectful a cool thing now. He called out some younger people. Now, me growing up, you look up to your elders and they say something, you're like, you know what? I'm going to listen. I respect you enough to listen. But he called out Deshaun Jackson. He called out a former NBA player, Steven Jackson, called out Nick Cannon, and he called out former NWA member Ice Cube, and told them, said, we cannot come together as black people if we keep attacking other groups. And we're attacking these groups, we're attacking Jewish people, we're attacking whites. And he said, it's just stupid, it's dumb. And he's just getting tired of it, he's getting played out. And I think everyone kind of retracted what they said a little bit, backed off a little bit, except for Ice Cube. I think he just he doubled down on what he said basically, and hung true to that. But it was really good to hear Charles Barkley just basically in short say, I'm fed up. Good job, Sir Charles Barkley.
And then lastly, in conspiracy news, a person dressed up like a UPS delivery man pulls up to this federal judge's house, and I'll put the article here, posing as a delivery person. They open the door, shoots her, I think, 19-year-old son in the heart, kills him, wounds the husband. Luckily, she was down doing something else, so she didn't get hit. But she was part of a case, just got assigned a case that has some loose connection to Jeffrey Epstein and some Deutsche Bank or something like that. So, again, I know people say, oh, and it could just be random. It could just be random. But, again, most people don't think that Epstein killed himself. I know it became a joke and a meme.
Right.
And now Ghislaine Maxwell, however you say her name, only time will tell what's going to happen with her, but a lot of stuff is coming out right now.
Yeah.
And then to have something like this, again, could be just random acts of violence, but it's kind of weird, isn't it?
And maybe OJ didn't do it. So we're going along
He
with
said that. Anyway, but to end, some good news. Last article here, and I bring it up just because the Jewish community, the Orthodox Jewish community got hit really hard, especially in New York City, with this coronavirus. So what's happened is a big group from that community, I guess, I don't say black community, I can say Jewish community.
It's only fair.
Circle it back around. So anyway, there's some studies that say that people that have built the antibodies in their plasma, in their blood plasma, can be used to help people fight COVID-19. So in this article, you can see here that the community went down and used the fact that they've developed these antibodies. So they're going and giving lots of blood, and it would take a lot of time, but they're volunteering their time to go down, give blood so that these can be used for studies and try to help people that are sick from COVID to see if this can help them. So that's good. I mean, which is great. I mean, talk about people helping people. I mean, if you have the antibodies and they find a way to have your antibodies in your blood help somebody else fight this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about an awesome thing.
We need to fight this thing. I'm getting tired of staying in the house all the time, every weekend.
Never stays in the house.
I was trying to be serious when I was saying that. You just shot it to pieces.
Look at the tan I got from that pool party last night.
I wasn't there. I was inside because it wasn't right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so I wanted to leave. That's a bit of good news. Again, I want to give it much good news about the coronavirus. We need to get this over with. So if this group of people used their experience to help another group of people, or just help people in general, I'm tired of calling them groups. People helping people. I mean, if I had the antibodies and he was sick, I would do everything I can to give, him blood to help him, and I hope that everybody would do that. So
Absolutely.
If we find out that this is it, and we find out that all these kids had it, they have antibodies, and they need to go get blood.
Right.
If that works. So, anyways,
is that a wrap for today?
That's a wrap.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you guys watching. We love the fact that you're watching, and our numbers are growing exponentially. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share this video with everyone you know.
Just because we don't go on Facebook, if you do, share this on Facebook.
Share it on Facebook. So we appreciate you guys.
I don't go on Twitter. I can't handle Twitter.
No, that's a lot. But we appreciate you guys. Keep watching, keep supporting, keep leaving the comments, good, bad, and different. We appreciate all of those. And until next time, I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. See you later.